This free step-by-step video comes to you directly from Haynes. You can complete more than 200 jobs on this vehicle when you purchase the complete online manual at Haynes.com.
Fuel pump replacement. Pull the hood release lever located underneath the steering column. Lift the hood safety latch. Raise the hood and support it with the prop rod. Locate the fuse and relay box in the engine compartment. Remove the fuel pump fuse or relay. You can locate any fuse or relay by looking at the guide printed on the underside of the fuse box cover. Turn the ignition key to start and crank over the engine for several seconds. It will either start momentarily or immediately stall, or it won't start at all. Turn the ignition key to the off position. Loosen the cable nut from the negative battery terminal, then disconnect the negative battery cable. Position the cable aside to prevent accidental reconnection. Pull and release the locking tab and remove the rear seat cushion from the passenger's side. Remove the upper access panel from under the passenger seat. Remove the access panel to the fuel tank, then reposition it off to the side. Use compressed air to blow any debris from the fuel pump assembly area. Disconnect the electrical connectors from the fuel pump assembly. You'll need somewhere to place a fuel-safe drain pan to hold the fuel pump assembly once you've removed it. The best solution is to remove the driver's side rear seat cushion and place the drain pan there along with plenty of rags to absorb any spilled fuel. Mark the fuel line locations to ensure correct reconnection. Also place a few shop rags near fuel lines to absorb any spills. Squeeze the quick release tabs and disconnect the fuel lines. Mark a line across the top of the fuel tank, retaining ring, and pump to ensure correct orientation upon installation. Remove the fasteners and the retaining ring. Tuck the fuel lines out of the way. Tech tip. Make a hook tool out of an old coat hanger for releasing the lower end of the pump assembly. This will make it easier to remove the pump and the fuel tank sending unit separately from the tank. Shine a light down into the tank and locate the fuel pump connection. Move the cover out of the way slightly, then reach in with the hook tool and release the clip holding the fuel pump to the bracket. Here's how the hook tool is used in the tank to disconnect the fuel pump from the fuel tank bracket. Holding the fuel tank sending unit to one side, very carefully lift the fuel pump out of the tank. Carefully guide the fuel sending unit out of the tank. It's rather long and has to be angled to get it out of the tank completely. When the entire unit is removed, place it into the drain pan. Lay the entire assembly on rags on a workbench for disassembling. Disconnect the fuel pump electrical connector from the pump assembly. Disconnect both fuel lines from the assembly, noting the locations of each one. Familiarize yourself with the mounting block on the fuel pump and the recess inside the tank where it needs to fit. The fuel pump is encased in a plastic housing. Remove the housing and install the new pump in the same way. This is what the fuel pump should look like once it is in place. Wearing protective, fuel-safe gloves, install the pump into the tank and align it into the bracket at the bottom of the tank. The fuel pump should sit in this position when installed. Notice the angle and the position of the strainer. This is a very important step in the procedure. Be sure the pump locks into place. Remove the O-ring, wipe off the sealing area, then install a new one. Before installing the sending unit, it's a good idea to secure the electrical and fuel lines of the pump with a temporary wire or zip tie so they won't separate or fall back into the tank where you can't reach them with the sender in the way. Carefully install the sending unit into the tank, being careful not to bend the float arm. While holding the sending unit up slightly, connect the electrical connector and fuel lines from the pump to the sending unit in their correct locations. Align the fuel pump module and lock ring marks with the mark drawn on the fuel tank, then install the mounting bolts. Tighten the fuel pump retaining ring mounting bolts securely, a little at a time, in a crisscross pattern. Connect the fuel lines to the top of the pump. Connect the electrical connectors to the top of the pump. When you're finished working on the fuel system, install the fuel pump relay or fuse, then the fuse box cover. Connect the negative battery cable to the battery terminal and tighten the cable nut securely. Turn the ignition switch to the on position and wait a few seconds to allow the fuel system to pressurize. Then, start the engine and check for fuel leaks at the fuel pump lines, then turn off the engine. Install and tighten the fasteners for the access cover securely. Install the upper access cover, tighten the fasteners, and flip the carpet section over the cover. Install the seat cushions, locking the front tabs into place.